Hello and welcome to the 2021 Deer Hunters Expo. Well, this past year has been a real doozy, hasn't it? This pandemic has changed a lot of things around us, and this year's expo is no different. Normally, we'd all be packed into this church with over 200 other fellow hunters. We'd be planning which seminars to go to. We would be checking out the impressive mounts hanging in the gym that were brought in by you. And our mouths would be watering in anticipation of the amazing meal that we'd be enjoying shortly. But like everything else, this year is a little bit different. It's a little different, yes, but our goal was to keep as many aspects of the past Deer Hunters Expos as we possibly could. We have some fantastic seminars that we're going to be talking about more here in a minute. And our main event, which is what you are watching right now, we'll have an amazing word from our keynote speaker, Dean Hulse, and we'll also be giving away door prizes at the end of this video. Now, the advantage of doing this event completely virtually is that we can watch it as many times as we want, whenever we want to, and we can share it with fellow hunters. And we encourage you to do just that. This content is for you. It'll stay up on the Fulton Church website for quite a while, so take advantage of it and share it with others who might be interested in it. And boy, do we have some great content for you. Besides Dean's amazing stories and insights, we have 4 seminars that are available to you. If you scroll down just a little bit on this page, you'll see a video player with 4 seminars. They will be right there waiting for you when you're ready to watch them. Watch them all in one sitting, or come back when you have time to watch one here and another there. They'll be available for a while, so take advantage of it and check them out. I want to give you a little sneak peek, a quick little taste of what these seminars are about. In our first seminar, join Rob Phelps with the help of Pastor Larry McKenzie as he walks us through the very interesting process of making your own venison bratwursts. Rob walks us through the process from start to finish. You'll see how to grind the meat and how to stuff them. Rob will share his recipes and tips and tricks to making some pretty amazing venison brats. And we're in Wisconsin, so we like our brats, don't we? Rob knows his stuff, and his passion for cooking is obvious. So check out his seminar to see how easy it is to make your own venison brats. Then Bill Morrison, our Whitetail Stories host, has invited some awesome people to tell their amazing hunting stories. These stories will have you riveted and feeling like you are right there, right next to them in the middle of their hunt. 4 stories of 4 different hunts that yielded some incredible harvests. These stories from Guy and Dane Schultz, as well as Wes Milar, will certainly be entertaining, but also potentially helpful as we look forward to our own future hunts. So don't miss Bill and his friends as they talk through some amazing hunting stories. And then usually we have deer scoring available at the Deer Hunters Expo. But due to being virtual this year, we couldn't really offer scoring. Do not fear. Wes Milar has a great seminar that will walk us through the process of scoring our own deer. Wes has scored somewhere between 1 and 1,000 deer and has the passion and experience to give us the knowledge and the tools that we need to be able to score our own deer. So if you want to enhance the story of your hunt with the score of your buck, check out this seminar to see how it is done. And then lastly, Sam Billhorn leads our final seminar on hunting setups and habitat design. Here's Sam right now with a short summary of what you can look for in his seminar.
Well, hey everybody, Sam Billhorn here, and I'm a longtime member of Fulton Church and excited to be a part of this year's Deer Expo, returning after having been a speaker last year on whitetail habitat design and some of the key principles of that. And building on that, what I am bringing today is some of my favorite hunting setups. A lifetime hunter and enjoy being in the woods dozens of days each fall. And really now all throughout the year, working on habitat design, improving my own land that I hunt on, as well as now through consulting business of whitetail partners doing design and habitat layout for clients that have me out, and we spend a day together go walk their land, learn about how they hunt, how they want to use the land, and take all those things and put them together to make a plan for them that fits with all those things for them to improve their property for hunting. So those designs I'll be bringing to you. I have 6 or 8 different properties that I'm going to be touching on in this workshop, and cover maybe 10 or 12 different hunting setups, some of my favorites and ones that have led to success for hunters this past fall. So with that, I will pivot to a habitat plan and talk over an example of one of those. So the habitat designs that I do are in Google Earth. Many of you may have seen that before. And I overlay all the different features on top of the land. And zoomed way out here, it seems like a lot of stuff going on. And it is. There's a lot of different features. But I'm going to break down one of these stand setups and one that led to success for this landowner this past fall. So what we have here is a timbered ridge, a small ridge that is on a peninsula out into this open body of water here. And because of that, when we looked at this land and we were walking it, we came across this spot here. And this ridge is the elevation varies probably maybe 15 feet from the water to the top of this ridge. There wasn't, a lot, but in 40 yards distance, probably across this bottleneck, that's significant because the deer, unless they're going to go for a swim, the only way they have to come and go from this area, which in this back it's remote bedding, very thick, and increased the thickness of it too with some of the timber work that he did, but definitely bedding areas back in there. And what this yellow line indicates was a planned deer travel route or corridor across this ridge, and it's split from here going one of 2 directions out of the back, one down this tiny little travel way that split these 2 wet areas, and then this other one that came up into some other habitat features here. But the bottleneck presented the best opportunity, and when we stood out there, we knew something was special about this spot when we were doing the walkthrough. And with a little bit of timber work here just to bring some trees down, as well as a mock scrape and water hole, this main line of movement became very defined. And with a camera on that, which he had, it was either cell cam or one of the ones that link that you don't need to go pull the card, he was very well versed at the activity here. And when the right wind was set up, he was in this stand here, the stand number 9. And October evening, as darkness was starting to creep in, he had a really big buck come up to this mock scrape and water hole, and he was able to arrow him and recover him that night. So success story for sure, and to have it be within the first season of his design or his habitat improvements was special for him and for me as well. So with that, it is these types of setups that I'm going to bring as examples. And some of my favorite setups, as well as ones that led to success. If you want to join my workshop, I invite you, and appreciate you taking the time to be with us for that, as well as for the Deer Expo as a whole for this year. I look forward to being back in person again in coming years, and wish you all very well. Thanks.
So again, at the conclusion of this video, scroll down and take a look at the seminars. But now it's time for our keynote speaker. Dean is an outfitter, a guide, outdoor writer, author, blogger, and speaker from Michigan's Upper Peninsula. He has a passion for the outdoors and for hunting. But more than that, he has a passion for Jesus and making the gospel known. So sit back and relax. And wherever you're watching this, can you give a little golf clap for our incredible speaker, Dean Hulse?
Good evening. I'm glad to be with you guys tonight. It's a little awkward, a little different than normally when I do this, and it's great to be in Madison area from the UP tonight. So it saved me a drive, but hopefully in the near future, we'll get together and be able to do this in person. It's going to be a little different than what I normally do. Normally, I throw a bunch of videos in when I'm talking, and we get a chance to laugh. And today, we're just going to tell some stories and talk to you about some of my experiences and the things that I get to do and have gotten to do over the years, and then what's really important to me. So I thought what I'd do is tell you a little bit about my background. I've been guiding hunters for 35 years all over North America. I've been extremely blessed to get to do and see the things that most people dream about. Having been raised in the UP, being a Youper my whole life, I pretty much living the Youper man's dream, I guess. So anything from South Texas, right on the Mexico border, to the mountains of Kodiak Island, Alaska, and from mountains of Colorado to the Everglades in Florida, we've gotten to do more things than most people would ever dream of and than I ever dreamed of. So I thought I'd share a few of the stories, some of the things that have changed my life and done some things see the things that I've gotten to do, and then tell you about what they've meant to me. It's funny, I've been guiding for, like I said, 35 years, and the last 10 or 15 years I've gotten to do some pretty amazing things with disabled veterans and disabled children, and Purple Heart veterans especially. So I wanted to share a couple of the stories that took place there. I wanted to share a little bit about my Kodiak Island adventures. So let's get at it. I think that it's again, this is a little less personal this way, but we're going to do the best we can with it. And I hope that I bring something to you tonight that you weren't expecting when you showed up online. I want to tell you a little bit about Kodiak Island and some of the things we do. I love to call animals. I should say that first. And one of the things I think that I don't know if I excel at, but one of the things I have a passion for is calling. And I've called turkeys and elk, deer, ducks. I'm not much of a duck and waterfowl caller, but I love to hunt them. And I was going to tell you about an experience that I had on Kodiak Island. We were hunting the first time we went up there. We were hunting black-tailed deer and had a great hunt. I had a young guy with me one morning, and we were out and had killed a deer the day before, but you had more than one tag. I think we had 5 tags at the time. And so we were out hunting and went up to where we had killed the deer the day before, thinking there might be more bucks in that area. Came upon the kill site, and there were some bones there the night before. We got there in the morning, and they were just shreds of bones, and we knew that a brown bear had been there. And so we decided we were going up higher, cut through the tag elders, and those of us in Michigan and Wisconsin were used to tag elders in the swamps and around the creeks, and they're not very big. But in Alaska, they're the size of a Nerf football, and they're growing in every direction. And the only places really to walk through them on the mountains lots of times is through the tunnels that the bears had made, and you can smell the bears and you can see the tracks and find the droppings the size of a dinner plate. And so we walk up through that, try to get above timberline and up to where the deer were generally up higher elevation. And we go down a valley and up high, and about noon we finally decide we're not getting above timberline in this spot, so we headed off the mountain. We get down to into a creek bottom, start heading down. It's called Salmonberry Creek, actually. We're heading off the mountain down into the valley below, back where we had come from. And we came to a place where I jumped a deer, and I didn't see it. Went up over a hill like raspberry brush, and I just saw the butt of it and didn't see what it was. Well, black-tailed deer are really susceptible to calling. They're even more so than, much more so than our whitetails. So I started calling like a wounded, or a distressed fawn, I should say, and just bleeding with my mouth, blatting, and like that. And at the first blat, a doe jumps over the hill, lands at my feet, literally 5 feet in front of me. And I thought that was pretty cool, so I keep calling. And with the second or third one, I heard something behind me, and I turned back around to think, well, another buck's coming, or another deer's coming, maybe it's a buck. And I see brown, and the next jump, I see the bear head that big around, running full speed at me. And that bear spent about 2 seconds to go from 40 yards to about 15 yards. My mind was telling me so quickly that I needed to make a decision, and I decided that if that bear hit the creek at 15 yards, I was going to have to pull the trigger. I had the gun up, I'm screaming, bear, bear, and the guy with me, young guy, didn't have a lot of experience hunting, and he's looking at me and thinking, what an idiot. It's obviously a deer standing here. And as the bear hit the water, and I'm yelling bear, my hunting partner, the guy that was with me that day, spun around, panicked, and he pulled the trigger on his gun and shot right in front of my foot, nearly taking my toes off. And that stopped the bear in the creek. And his first thing he said is, I didn't kill him, or didn't hit him, and because my crosshairs are on the bear's forehead. And the bear looked at me, now he's about 10 yards, 20 to 30 feet away, and he looks back over his shoulder, and he looks back at me, and I'm thinking, I got a 50-50 chance. Either I'm going to have to kill this bear, or he's going to eat me. And the bear turned and walked slowly away. Quite an adrenaline rush. And I learned something about calling that day. I like to take, whenever I call something, I like to learn something out of that, whether it be turkeys or whatever, about calling. And one of the things I did learn that day is you don't call deer in bear country, in brown bear country. I was young guy with me, his name was Jim, and Jim was a smoker at the time, and he spent the next hour trying to find a cigarette, and he didn't bring any cigarettes that day. And every time we stopped, he was patting his pockets, hoping to find one cigarette. He was so worked up. But in the end, we got out of that one safe and sound. But again, I learned something when I called. I've called elk in Colorado and other states, and I love calling elk. There's nothing. I love to call turkeys. I've been a turkey hunter since the early 80s and called in lots. But elk are something special. I've had awesome opportunities. A few years ago, I had a young guy in Colorado with me. His dad bought him a hunt for graduation from college, and we called elk in. And one night he passed up 5 bulls. If you're an elk hunter, there's not many places you can go and pass up 5 bulls, and they were all 5x5s and 6x6s, but younger bulls for what we were looking for. And the very last, and I kept calling every time a bull come out in the open. I'd call and he'd run to us. And I had finally all these small younger bulls went past, and I had another bull that was up above us, and he was raking trees and breaking stuff and chasing cows. And finally, I saw the cows come down the timber along the edge of the opening by us, and I've got the hunter on his knees 10 feet in front of me. And I wish I'd had a video camera at that time, but these cows come past me, and I kept calling to them and talking with them, and they go past me, and I see the bull coming, and he's coming right down the opening. So I call to the cows over my shoulder to make it sound like they're going away, and then I bugle back at the bull, and he comes down the path right up to my hunter face to face, about meter camera away, and he bugles right in his face. And my hunter at 22 years old held it together. I know I've guided a lot of guys that have hunted for 50 years, and they would never have held it together. And he was able to turn and harvest this bull. And again, I learned something at every situation with what we do. And I think that's one thing I've taken that, and I think we can all take those situations and take them into life on everything that we do, how we do things, what our reactions are, what other people's reactions to things that happen to us, and put them to good use. I said something about the vets that we take hunting, and I've gotten to take a lot of Purple Heart vets hunting, and that's probably the highlight of my year of hunting. Is a two hunt period with about 6 days. That for 3 days we take disabled children and terminally ill children hunting, and then we get a break in between, and that's an exhausting hunt, trying to keep up with that many children, getting up at 2:30 in the morning, make sure everything's right, and then we follow that up 3 days after that, taking Purple Heart veterans hunting, and we have excuse me. We've had some great experiences. And all these guys that have been shot or more recently hit with IEDs, and that's an exhausting hunt because of the emotion of when you hear the stories of these guys and these women of what they've gone through, and just imagining it is an exhausting experience. So I want to tell a story quickly about Phil. Phil was a hunter actually a local hunter, and I have a son that was served with Phil in Baghdad. And Phil had come back and had lost both of his legs, use of one arm, and lost one eye. And I've known Phil for several years, but I'd never spent any time with him. And we had Phil out. He born and raised in the UP, and we were able to get him his biggest buck ever at Two Hats Ranch in Lower Michigan. But we had Phil out, and we had a big buck in front of us, and he shot this buck, and the buck ran straight away from us a couple hundred yards across a field, and it's overgrown field. And when the buck went down, we talked about how we were going to go over there and get film of or get some photos of Phil and his buck. And I said, well, we can wheel you over. And he said, well, the best thing we could do is, he said, if someone would carry me. Now, Phil's not very big. First of all, he doesn't have any legs, and he's a thin young guy. And I said, well, Phil, I'll carry you, thinking I'm a lot older and not in the kind of shape that I should be. And then our guide that was in the stand with us as well, said, I'll carry you, Phil. And I was happy. The guide was about a 22-year-old Texan, about 6'5", and about 200 pounds. So I ran ahead when they started heading over there. I ran ahead with the video camera and laid on the ground and videoed back had the buck in the foreground, had the guide and Phil with Phil on his back coming towards us. And as they got close, I was bawling. The experience of watching somebody serve another person in that way, of giving up themselves for somebody else. And that's really, it reminds me of, we've had a lot of veterans, a lot of Marine veterans on these hunts, and their motto being Semper Fi and serving somebody else. This past year, I had an experience with someone that was with Phil. I got to bring him on a hunt, and his name was James. And Phil told me about James, and he said James had pulled him out of the wreckage, and he had tried to get James to come as his guest when we did Phil's hunt a few years back. This year, I was able to bring James on the hunt, not knowing that he had been wounded as well at the time. And before Phil got there to join us as James' guest, James told me the story, and he said, Phil didn't tell you the whole story. He said, I was supposed to, well, he was the gunner on the vehicle that Phil was in. Phil was the driver, and they went down, made a wrong turn, and which we all do in life, and sometimes we pay for it, sometimes we don't. And Phil was driving and made a wrong turn, and it nearly cost him his life. James, when they hit an IED in a bad neighborhood, James was blown out of the vehicle. When he came to, he wasn't in the gunner position anymore. He was laying on the ground, and he stood up and he was dazed, and he said, I'm looking at at where the vehicle should be, and all there is a black cloud of smoke. And he said, it took me a few seconds to realize what was going on. And he said, I was hot. He said, I didn't know what was happening. Had some pain, but not much. And so he ran to the passenger side first, where there was a young lady soldier in the seat, and he pulled her out. And when he pulled her out, she was trying to climb out. She didn't know where she was going. She was trying to climb out through the gunner position. And he was able to get her to pull her out. Well, he noticed that her whole left side was covered in blood. So he checked, and she didn't seem to be wounded. So he went around to get Phil out the other side. And when he opened the door, Phil was laying on his back with his head by the door. And he looked down, and both of Phil's legs were gone right at the pelvis. And there was blood everywhere. And Phil just kept saying James's name over and over and over and over again. And so James pulled him out and laid him down and tried to get tourniquets on his legs, but he couldn't get the tourniquets ripped off his own uniform, and he couldn't get Phil's ripped off, and he was struggling. And he said then he watched Phil close his eyes, lean back, and his head went limp, his neck went limp, and his head laid back, and he thought he was gone. And Phil didn't tell me any of this, and this is years later, 13 years since it happened, and James is telling me the story. Just then, two other soldiers came over and said, come on, Potter, that's James's last name. Come on, we need to get you some help. And he didn't realize he couldn't use his left hand. He had been trying to pull that tourniquet out, and he looked down, and his left arm was broke at the forearm and hanging at a 90-degree angle. So they took him away thinking Phil had passed away, and didn't hear anything from Phil. He didn't hear anything about what had actually happened until a week or two later. He got a call when he's in the hospital in Germany, and it's Phil on the other line from calling from the U.S. from the hospital. And he just said, James, he said, I just want to let you know I'm okay, or I will be okay. Anyhow, so James said, well, Phil, do you remember what happened? He said, I remember everything. And he said, well, what happened? So he told him, and James said, well, he said, I thought you died. He said, no. James, he said, I thought you were going to die if I didn't give you time to go take care of yourself. I didn't think I was going to make it. So I wanted you to think I died so you could get taken care of. James was willing to give everything he had. It's just such an example of, first of all, what we are to be to one another. We're to be willing to give up ourselves for our friend or for our brother. And it's in, we find in John 15:13, I think it's on the back of my hat. And actually, it says, greater love has no man to give his life for his brother. And most of us could never do that. Most of us will never do that or be called to do that physically. But we are called to do that emotionally and spiritually. And that's exactly what Christ did for us. Christ came to earth for you and I, knowing that we couldn't take care of it ourselves, like Phil was laying there. All these vets that I've been able to speak to all died once. They were all laying in a battlefield or laying in a vehicle, all but dead. And unless someone came along and reached in and pulled them out like James did, he reached into the smoky, bloody mess of that vehicle and lifted Phil out. And that's exactly what Christ did for us. We can't do it on our own. It's and I'll come back to that in a little bit. I was telling you that about the other things that I've gotten to do and love to do, and I love to call, and we've called in just the last year or so. I've called in some huge bucks in South Dakota. Love to hunt South Dakota. I'd have some videos for you if we could put it together, but it just won't work. I apologize. But I called in a monster buck a couple years ago for my wife, and she took it, was able to kill this buck. And when that buck came in, he thought he was coming to the real thing. He thought he was coming to another deer. He thought he was coming into a fight of two other bucks. And in the end, he came into what he thought was true was false. And in the end, my wife killed him. And it was great for her. It was great for us. The two of us, we had a great hunt with it. But what happened was that buck thought he was coming to the truth, and he came to a lie, and in the end, it meant his life. We all face that. We face that literally every day in life. The making the choice between what's right and what's wrong, what's true and what's false. And that's something that we have to come in a place, we all come to a place in our life where we have to decide whether or not we're going to the truth and to a lie. And I think on that with some verses, and one is Romans 3:23, and it says, "For all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God." We all decide at one point when we're going to go to a lie or we're going to go to the truth. And going to that lie means that we've all fallen short. And none of us is good enough to get into heaven on our own. None of us is able to get into heaven on our own. But another verse just 3 chapters later is Romans 6:23. And that says, "For the wages of sin," so 3:23 says, we've all sinned and fallen short. We're not good enough. Romans 6:23 says, "The wages of that sin, the cost of that sin is death." And there's a small word next that's probably, to me, is the greatest word in all of the Bible, and it's "but." The wages of sin is death. We all deserve death. But the gift of God is eternal life through Jesus Christ. So we can't make it on our own. Phil was in that car, in that Humvee, in that vehicle. Couldn't get out of there on his own. He was dead there. In seconds, he would have been dead. But James came along and pulled him out. That's exactly what Christ did. The gift of God is eternal life through Jesus Christ our Lord. Jesus came to not only serve us like we talked about service for one another, but he gave his life. We just celebrated Christ's birth. But Christ only came for one reason, and that's to die. And the reason he died is for you and I to have a hope of eternity with him, to have a promise of eternal life. I don't know where you are in your life. We've all got an opportunity beyond what this world offers us. We've got all have an opportunity, first of all, of a different life here, but also an eternity with Jesus Christ. We're going to spend eternity somewhere. We're all going to die. It's appointed unto a man once to die, and then a judgment. So the Bible says that, and I don't think there's anybody watching that would say that we're not all going to die someday. We're all going to leave this earth. And then what? And I think the then what is what we need to face. Are you sure where your tomorrow is if you die today? I'll tell you a quick story, a couple stories. But first, I had a sister, younger sister that was 41 years old, and had 3 little kids and a husband. And one night she went to bed, and the kids went to bed, and the husband was working that night. And sometime during the night, she went to the floor. Her kids woke up in the morning and found her on the floor, and called their dad. They were young, so they called their dad at work, said, "Mom's not breathing." And she didn't go to bed at night expecting not to get up, but she never did get up. So we don't expect when the end of our life is coming. Some of us get a chance to know about when it's coming, but we never know for sure. I have a friend, Curtis, who was my hunting partner lots of times, and one of the best hunters I ever met. Curtis is a young man that was hunting on a friend's farm just December 23rd, a few years ago, and shot a deer that night. Was going home just 2 miles on a back road that has almost no traffic at any time, was going around a 90-degree turn, and a drunk driver hit him head on and killed him instantly. Curtis was making plans. He had stopped at his parents' house earlier in that day. His mother told me that he stopped and talked about, "We'll see you tomorrow for Christmas Eve." He didn't know. He fully expected that he had a lot of life ahead of him. I expected he was going to have a lot of life ahead of him as my friend. I don't know where Curtis's heart was that day. He heard a message, but we don't know. There's no guarantee past this breath that you're taking right now that the next breath is coming or that tomorrow is coming. We hope that that's the case, but we all have to face that. So that's where those verses come in. Those verses come in as Romans 3:23 and 6:23, and then the we have to pay the wages. Someone's got to pay the wages for that sin. Christ did that. That tells us in Romans 6:23. And other verses that we've all seen. We see it in football games when there's crowds in the stadiums. But when we see it, it's John 3:16, and we see it plastered everywhere. You see it on semi-trucks. But do you really listen to what it is? And that verse says, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him would never perish but have eternal life." That doesn't mean we're not going to die in this earth, but it means that when we leave this earth, we have a guarantee. If we've trusted in Jesus Christ for what he did, not only coming as a baby, but what he did when he died and rose again, then we have a hope for tomorrow. We have a hope for past that last breath, an eternity with those that have gone before that trusted as well. You know that the promise of John 3:16 talks about what Christ did for us. And I want to talk for just a second about what family is. And when doing these veterans hunts that I've told you about, we've gotten to meet people that really see that the military is a family like few others. I mean, there's a tie to those people that have given their lives for one another. And that's exactly what Christ did for us. And there's a story I want to tell you quickly of a forest. It's actually the largest living organism, because that's what a family is, a living organism that's taking care of one another. And there's a forest in New Mexico called the Pando Forest. And the Pando Forest is hundreds of thousands of aspen trees. And these aspen trees are all bound together with a root system that holds each other up. And that's what a Christian family does for one another. We have an opportunity, we have a responsibility, whether we know Christ or not, to be caring for others. But once you're in a Christian family, once you're in the family of Christ, it becomes a way of life that holds you up for the rest of your life and goes beyond that through eternity. I talked about John 3:16, and if you've never made a decision, if you don't know today where you'd be when your last breath comes, and I've told this story and I've told it to people that actually didn't make it through the next day or two, and I don't know where they stood. Like Curtis, I don't know where they stood with Christ. My sister Becky, who passed away at 41 years old, she had a relationship with Jesus Christ. She had made a decision to trust in what Christ had done for her in coming as the baby, and dying on the cross as he did, and then rose again. So I know without a doubt that when I leave this earth, I'm going to be together with my sister. I'm going to be together with my dad that made the decisions. If you don't know today, don't let today pass without knowing, because you don't know where you'll be tomorrow. Usually I'm talking in front of a group and I can say, you don't know if you're going to make it home today, but you don't know if you're going to wake up tomorrow morning. There's no guarantee. So it's a very simple thing to do. It's not a difficult thing. It's making a commitment to living with Jesus, for Jesus Christ, and with Jesus Christ. But it's believing in what he did. It's as simple as saying, Jesus, I know that you came, that you died on the cross for my sins, that you are the Son of God, and that you rose again, so I have a hope of rising again someday when I die. That's as simple as that. Now, that's probably going to change your life, but way for the better. The joy and peace that comes with that decision, and that prayer, it's not the prayer, but it's the change in your heart, and the joy and peace that comes with that is beyond what you can even understand. So if you don't have that guarantee today, you can be guaranteed that. You can know that when you leave this earth, that you're going to step immediately into eternity with Christ. And I'd like to share just briefly a prayer. And if you guys want to pray silently, you're all by yourselves, you're welcome to do that. But it's as simple as just praying and accepting Christ. Well, let's do that together. If you haven't prayed that prayer before, if you haven't trusted in Christ, let's do that together. Heavenly Father, Lord, I come to you today knowing, first of all, that I'm a sinner, as Romans 3:23 said. And I know that I can't make it out on my own, like Phil in that wreck, Lord, that Jesus came and he lifted me out of that wreckage. and he gave me an opportunity to live again. I accept that, Lord. I believe that he came as my Savior. He died on the cross, and Lord, he rose again. I give my life to you. I believe in what you did. I trust in that, and I want to live with you in eternity. Amen. Now that prayer was just words. It was if that was in your heart and you believe that, you have a hope for tomorrow. I just challenge you to get with somebody at the church. If you're online now, I'm sure there's a way to do that. Touch base with somebody. They can get you my information if you're looking for someone to talk to. I don't care if you want to talk about hunting stories, but this is much more important than any hunt I've ever done. So don't leave here tonight. Don't leave this program tonight without knowing where you stand. And if you prayed that prayer, you know where you stand now. If you have questions, talk to somebody else with the church. Talk to me. I'd be glad to help you in any way I can. Thanks for inviting me tonight. I had a great time. Maybe we can get together next year. I'll show you some videos. Thanks.
Wow, that was fantastic. We just want to thank Dean Hulse for being willing to help us out this year for our all virtual 2021 Deer Hunters Expo. What a great job that he did. We're just grateful for him being willing to share his stories with us and also to share his art. So thanks, Dean. We appreciate you so much. Now we're going to do some drawings. I know it's the moment you've all been waiting for. We have 3 amazing door prizes. And you guys, those of you who registered, had 5 tickets to be able to put towards any one of these 3 door prizes. You could space them out and arrange them in any way you wanted to. If you want to put all 5 towards the Sawzall, you could do that, or if you want to spread them out evenly, whatever you wanted to do. So then what we did is we took those online tickets and we made real paper tickets of them that corresponds a number with a name. And that will determine who wins these amazing prizes. So let's draw. The first prize that we're going to draw for is the Milwaukee Sawzall. Let's see who the winner is.
Here we go, Zach.
I'm so excited.
Right off the bottom. No, off the top, off the side. Here, this is the winner right here.
Oh boy, who is it?
Right here is the winner. The winner is 994.
Number 994 is Bob Klingeman. Congratulations, Bob Klingeman. You have won the Milwaukee Sawzall. And as Wes is getting ready for the next drawing, for those of you who won, we're going to get in contact with you after tonight and arrange for how we get those door prizes to you. So next we're going to draw for the 2-hour virtual consulting session on developing your property with Sam Billhorn. And Sam was awesome and generous, and he donated 2 hours of his time to be able to help whoever the winner is get their property ready to go for the hunting season. Let's see who that is.
Okay, here we go. The odds are 1 in 30.
Oof, I like those odds.
Good odds. And the winner is number 1004.
1004. That is James Lanier. Congratulations, James Lanier. You have won the 2-hour virtual consulting session with our very own Sam Billhorn. He will get you ready to go to help get your property ready to go for the upcoming hunting season. Now our last one, I know it's going so fast, but our last door prize is the ground blind. Let's get those tickets ready and see who won our last door prize.
Okay, we'll get them all shuffled up here really good. I mean, it's a nice muddy ground blind.
It's a nice one.
Guaranteed. Didn't you say it was guaranteed to have big whitetails walk right by
Absolutely.
it? Especially if you put it up on property that Sam Billhorn and Whitetail Partners has helped you develop.
Yeah, that's going to help out a lot.
All right, here we go. I'm feeling good.
Let's see who the winner is.
And the winner is right here out of the middle. And the ticket number is 6673. 6673.
6673. It looks like the winner is Josh Roller. Congratulations, Josh Roller. You have just won yourself an amazing ground blind. Again, that's guaranteed to bring the deer right next to you. Actually, I don't know if that's true. It's probably going to help a little bit, though. So I wanted to just introduce Wes Milar. He's one of the guys that helped put this event together. He just has a few announcements that he wants to share before we wrap up tonight.
Well, this was an interesting year, and it was actually a lot of fun for Zach and myself and our team to put together the virtual expo. And hopefully you really enjoyed our speakers and our seminars and the drawing as well. Next year, we're going to be right back here in person, back in the Fulton Church facility. Similar to last year, the year before, and the year before that. Next year will be year number 5 for the Fulton Church Deer Expo. It'll be in February of next year again. We're really looking forward to that. The structure of it will be similar to what it was last year, where we have great food, an excellent speaker. In fact, Dean is coming back again to be with us in person next year to be our speaker. So mark your calendars. We'll get some additional information out to you this fall with more details. But I'm really looking forward to seeing everybody in person and to see those big deer mounts back up on the wall again. Fulton Church has been chosen to host the 2021 Christian Bowhunters of America banquet. This is a national organization. They have 200 members. Their mission in life is to bring the gospel to bow hunters. It's going to be a summer meeting, get together, July 31st. So the weather's going to be gorgeous here at Fulton Church. The river will be running open, not frozen like it is today. The event's going to be a little bit different than what you're used to with the Fulton Church Expo. We're going to have outdoor shooting out on the grass out here north of the school. There's going to be exhibits right here in the building. We're going to have a worship time, so there'll be singing, there'll be a speaker. So it's going to be a great afternoon of a lot of fun and fellowship. So mark your calendar, July 31st. That is open to Christian Bowhunter members and non-members, so anybody within the community is welcome to join us. So mark it down. If you need more information, you can go to the CBA website, and they'll have details on there.
Awesome. Thank you, Wes. And before we let you go, we just want to make sure that we invite you to Fulton Church. If you are not a regular attender, we'd love to have you come out and join us for a service. I know we're still in the middle of COVID, and maybe you'd rather watch from home. We have that capability as well. We're streaming all our services live to Facebook, YouTube, and to our church website. So make sure you go to fultonchurch.org if you have any questions. A lot of them I'm sure could be answered there. More details there as to when our services are and how you can find us and where you can find our live stream services. And if you have any questions, go to the website too. You can contact us through there, or you can email us at the church office, and we'd love to answer any questions that you have. We're so grateful that you decided to join us for this event. Just a reminder, again, this is all virtual, which means that you can continue to access the content for a long time. We're not sure how long we're going to keep it up, but it's going to be a while. So you can find the video right here. You can share the link with people that you know that you think might enjoy this content. And please don't forget about our seminars. We have 4 seminars. All you have to do is just scroll down just a little bit, click on any one of the 4, click on all of them. If you want to do that right after this is done, feel free to do that, or you can come back and check those out tomorrow or whenever you have the time to be able to watch those. But make sure you check out those seminars. There's amazing content there for you. So thank you so much for watching. We just want to thank all the people that made this happen, the planning committee. We want to thank Dean Hulse again for sharing with us. What a great time we had here together. I hope you enjoyed it. And hopefully we'll see you again next year at the 2022 Deer Hunters Expo, hopefully meeting in person. Thanks once again. Hope you have a great night. Thank you.